So the market is showing us that it wants to run, but is it going to? I think it is. I think that many things that have pumped are going to run some more for a bit. Some AI projects have absolutely taken off. Some gaming projects are getting some love. Well, today we have two special guests. The first you may already know if you've been watching any Illuvium videos. Though there are some smart content creators making Illuvium videos, his always stood out to me with his amazing analytical skills and ways of looking at things. Let's find out why he is devoting so much of his time to Illuvium. Our second guest will be God's Entry, who joined us last Friday, so we can take a look at what charts are on fire, what charts are on his mind, and what he is seeing on the charts. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money in crypto and you're looking for a seasoned investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. It's as easy as subscribing to the channel and liking this video. Do know I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. We do want to thank our Patreon members. We just finished our Friday private pre-stream that we do for our Patreon members that we run through Discord. Now make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show. Let's welcome our guest, Scoriox.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. I'm actually a huge fan of your videos. So I've watched probably every single one of them for the past 3 months because I love the way you look at the crypto market. And specifically, you cover most of the Illuvium.
Yeah. I think Illuvium always stood out to me when I first got into crypto and more in particular Web3. And it's so diverse as well. I believe when I decided I wanted to make content, it was so clear that Illuvium's going to have so many avenues that it's going down that there's going to be plenty of ways to look at the project, the token, and so on and so forth, that I'll never run out of ideas per se. So that was always a win, right?
Yeah. So stepping back, what first brought you into crypto? What projects were it that caught your attention, or what was it that drew you to crypto before you even found Illuvium?
So I wrote a thesis on collecting and collectibles a long time ago. So that brought me to blockchain technology because it was a clear win in terms of digital authenticity and certificates of authenticity and that sort of thing. So I started researching blockchain at about 2019. And then I kind of forgot about it for a while. I was getting into some other stuff and so on and so forth. And in about 2020, I came back to crypto. I can't remember what really reminded me to come back to crypto. I just kind of I was like, you know what? I remember this Ethereum thing's pretty cool. I'm going to jump back in. And then I went down the rabbit hole and looked at so many small cap tokens. I over diversified, which was a big mistake, but I started to get involved. The tokens I bought, I can't really remember. I think I got Cardano, Ethereum, and there were some other really key ones that I thought had really interesting promise. VeChain was one that I remember fondly because firstly, it had no competitors, which is kind of crazy to me. It still kind of does. But I thought I tried to look for places where blockchain technology would be really powerful in an area that kind of needed it. There are a lot of spaces, including Web3 gaming to a degree, where you don't actually need blockchain gaming to make it a reality. For example, CSGO has had a tradable marketplace forever, and it doesn't need blockchain. So VeChain was one of those ones where it used blockchain technology to figure out the supply chain logistics and supply chain issues, which I've seen lots of problems with in the past, and I thought it was just ingenious. Cardano is more like a hype train sort of thing, and Ethereum is one I probably believe in the most, if not ILV, because I see it as having so much utility. If I were to be a maxi for anything, it wouldn't be Bitcoin. It just doesn't do enough for me, but Ethereum is the thing that's powering this entire ecosystem, in my opinion. So I believe in it pretty heavily, yeah.
Yeah, no, Bitcoin, what's funny is about Bitcoin maxis is it's like they don't see that Bitcoin was generation 1 of this new technology, and they're right about Bitcoin that it's a great money, but they think other things are trying to compete on that. There's so much functionality that Ethereum spawned into existence, right? This idea of smart contracts spawns so much that it's going to change the world, so that blockchain will change the world in many, many ways. But like you said, blockchain isn't necessary for everything. Was it even really necessary to transform gaming? No and yes. The big problem with gaming was this idea of ownership, right? Or trapped value. And that's what frustrated me about games. I played this game, Eve Online, back in 2003, and I became one of the wealthiest individual players of anyone I knew. Me and my friend figured out how to make massive amounts of money with less time, and we were super rich in the game. And I was actually selling off items. You could sell them through eBay. So that was available back then until all of a sudden it wasn't. The game makers reached out to eBay and said, don't let people sell any of our items, right? And they really enforced it, making it a trapped ecosystem that you can't exchange this value. Because who would pay stuff? I was selling some things for $150, $250, $350. Well, who would pay that? Well, somebody who's a gamer, but maybe they're a doctor in their real life, and it would take them 100 hours to get that item, or they make $200 an hour, so 2 hours worth of work in their day job, and they have enough money to buy that item and save them 100 hours of game time. For them, it was a win. For me, it was a win because I could earn that kind of money in about, 5 hours. So, at the time in my day job, I was making $40 an hour, but I was just enthralled with this idea. I was averaging about $20 an hour playing a video game. So that really always caught my attention. So you were seeing the aspects of, okay, this could change the, gaming, even though it's not needed, it's kind of the vehicle. Because part of the reason they shut it down back in 2003, World of Warcraft, they really enforced their terms of services. I know EVE Online was worried about getting considered to have created a currency, which would make them banned in most countries. And so that was their concern. And so blockchains kind of allowed an end run about that you can have your game interact with ETH. You didn't create ETH. You can have even your in-game currencies interact with ETH. And so you can kind of go around it. And I do think some game makers won't want to go this route. They like trapped value. They don't want to open it up and open the floodgates, right? But they won't be able to compete because as gamers get an idea of, wait, I can get this item and later, if the game does well, I can sell it for way more than I bought it for.
It's not even that. One of the big things that drew me to Illuvium in particular was not only that they were trying something new and they were using the blockchain to facilitate new systems and new ideas that you couldn't do in regular gaming. For example, the way they make all their games interoperable. It was the idea of provable ownership was taken to that next level. So I'm an avid Pokemon player. I've been playing Pokemon since I could barely walk, right? So every single generation, Pokemon got easier and easier to hack and break. And I was super into the competitive scene for a while and things like that. And everyone was hacking in their teams. And honestly, Pokemon created their systems that kind of forced you to do that sort of thing. So I definitely don't blame any players. And it was a part of the ecosystem, and that's perfectly fine. But I always felt like if I managed to get a rare Pokemon, or I managed to go through all these hundreds of hours to get something I was really after, and people could hack it in 1 minute, I felt like it devalued my time that I spent.
Yep.
And I although it didn't really, because everyone lives their own life and my life doesn't really impact on theirs and so on and so forth, it still felt that way to me. So I really like the idea of ownership being proven. It doesn't matter if everyone can get an Atlas in Illuvium per se, which is one of the characters. It mattered that now when everyone gets it, it means something truly significant because you can prove that they got it, like truly got it, and they went through all that effort to get it. And it's kind of like going to your day job and spending hours doing something, doing a task. And now that once it's completed, you can prove that you did all that work and you had to do all that work to push the company forward. It's like that, but in kind of like a progression of your life. I think Illuvium created enough unique systems that it made sense to put it on the blockchain. For example, you can combine 3 Illuvials and then they will be burnt and you'll get their evolution and things. And you can't really do that in a game where it's too easy to hack, or it's too easy to just code things in and stuff like that. But with the blockchain, it's all verifiable, it's all provable, and that just makes everyone's time more valued within the ecosystem.
I hadn't even thought about it from that point of view. I've been all excited about the ownership side of it, that we actually have true ownership. What is cool about, say, Pokemon cards, the cards themselves, is that's true ownership. You can hold on to it. You can keep it in mint condition so you can later sell it, though it's kind of a pain because like you had mentioned when we talked before, having binders and binders of cards, right? And they take up storage space. So I like the idea of digital storage space, being able to keep these things rather than having to hold on to them and stack them in rooms. I like that idea, but I love the idea of ownership, right? Because when there's ownership and people have a chance to participate in the value, you attract way more attention. That's why a game like Axie Infinity, that for me, after playing for 6 hours, I want to claw my eyes out, could attract so many people to play. Now, there are people that like that type of gameplay style. It just isn't my type of gameplay style. So some people love playing the game, but they love the fact that they could play that game and make more in their day job than they could at the factory, say in the Philippines. And I think that's super cool that they could do that. The game was a little bit too one-dimensional, though, to last other than when massive numbers of people were coming in. It was kind of like play to earn gaming 1.0. And probably, where did you say Illuvium's like 2.5, right?
Yeah.
Coming in, that it is a massive upgrade, right? So they released their both the Illuvium Zero and Overworld betas in this last month to month and a half. What did you think when you first played those?
Well, before that, they also released the Arena, the survival mode beta. So now they've got all 3 games in a functional state. As for what I thought, the survival mode was definitely a little bit too repetitive, but the visuals, the strategy gameplay, and so on was just, it was a caliber above everything else. And that's the other thing about Illuvium, is that it doesn't strive to be a copycat of another game with blockchain. They've got so many of their own ideas that they've implemented already while still fitting into a genre that's popular or relevant. So it's just, you just can't go past it as a project, even if you're not super into it like I am. But yeah, the overworld I thought was really incredible. It's so polished, which is something we don't even get in Web 2 gaming anymore. It's like every single time I go into a game, there's bugs and glitches everywhere. You're flying through walls and your character's like running backwards without looking backwards and shit. It's just, it's absolutely bonkers. And even though Illuvium isn't quite finished, so to speak, like, it's not super enthralling and it's a little bit boring. It's a little bit repetitive. It's a little bit empty. They've got all the basic building blocks there to pretty much do whatever they want. Like, if you could imagine them having this world that they created, no clipping or anything, you go through, you brush away trees and stuff, and your character moves like a human does. And then you keep adding those regions, and then you start to add other players and things. You've basically got World of Warcraft, but it looks like it wasn't hand-drawn by a 3-year-old. And then you've got this futuristic game, and it's polished, and that's something that is really important to me. I know it's not important to many people, but you'd be surprised the sort of difference it can make, just the little things. As for Illuvium Zero, this was what I expected it to be. I was always really excited for it. I knew a lot of other people weren't, and have since jumped onto it and really loved playing the game. I think it's awesome. I think it's a lot of fun. I've played a lot of city builders in my time. It's definitely too short, but it'll upgrade as we go. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and hopefully, like, they do, that's the thing about releasing things, is they can continue to develop them and upgrade them, right? And have different releases. And so they have to make sure the mechanisms are right with the minting different things so that doesn't get broken. But other than that, a lot of the stuff can come in the future. Like, I've been playing Overworld. I'm loving, like, the capture mechanisms, right? And that sometimes I miss, like, I've lost some battles and missed the chance to even capture some of them. One of them, I didn't have enough of the epic shards, and so I wasn't able to, like, I had to throw a rare shard at something that, like, my chances of capturing it were super low, and sure enough, I was like, dang it. So it has real, like, loss, right? Real, like, opportunity and real loss. I like that aspect of it. I like the limited edition aspect of it, that they're going to have season 1 and you'll get these alluvials, even though they'll reuse the alluvials and they'll change some of the looks and they'll call them a different name. I get that they have to do that for development time and costs. But it's cool because, like, season 1 will have things that you'll never fully see again, right? I haven't figured out my strategy, whether I'm going to keep a lot of the stage 1s and not merge them, or merge them. It probably depends on what it is, because some of these stage ones, if later you can still merge them into the higher ones, which I imagine you'll be able to, like some of these things like links, right? You might just hang on to, like, am I getting the name right? The little
Yep.
cat one. You hang on to like 700 of the stage one ones. That way people later on, you don't know which of the stage threes will end up being the really, really like ones that everyone wants. So if you hang on to a ton of the stage ones, you can then later explore it, because man, that one can evolve into so many different things.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the bonding curve. I keep going back to that point where they're making a game that fits the blockchain. It's not just a game, it's a game that needs blockchain technology to work. And the bonding curve is an excellent example of that, where they have they're two separate mechanisms. I don't know if they're tied together heaps, but they're two separate mechanisms. Firstly, that every single time someone captures an alluvial, then that alluvial gets removed from the ecosystem, and slowly they become harder and harder to find in the overworld. And the second one is that whenever they catch it and whenever they not encounter it, I had it in my head a second ago, but like there's a second mechanism where they start burning them, and if they capture them, if they find them, then they'll be removed from the ecosystem over time. I'm missing my words there, but I think that's just so interesting, where it's verifiable, you know where it's coming from, and then this thing is kind of restricting it based on demand, based on supply, and all the rest of it. And just, yeah, if there are more players, then obviously there's going to be less alluvials, because they're all taking them out of the ecosystem. So I think it will feel more like a living and breathing world, especially if we get to like see that sort of stuff. You got to go like a hub or something. You're like, oh, how many atlases are left in the world? Shit, I better go get some. I think that'd be crazy.
It could bring massive numbers of people in to play this game and capture. I think so. I barely missed the Pokemon generation. I was off in the military when Pokemon really became big, and so I was off doing other things, and so I totally missed that. But everyone just younger than me totally caught that, right? And they've grown up with Pokemon as one of the biggest things. And so this really ties into some of the things people like about Pokemon, right? The ability to take these creatures, capture them, have them fight for you and battle with you, which is a lot of fun. I think they tied in the collector side of us really well, right? Don't you? Isn't that part of what you love about this game?
About Pokemon?
About Illuvium and being able to collect these kind of like you did with Pokemon cards.
Yeah, definitely. They've missed one slight aspect, and I think that is coming. It's just one of the things that they don't want to leak. There are things they don't want to leak. What Pokemon did really well was they didn't the designs were important for a lot of reasons, but they didn't just design Pokemon. They designed something that existed inside a world, inside an ecosystem. For example, you have lots of Pokedex entries and things, and you can see these interactions in the anime and their world building and stuff, where certain Pokemon like certain things and certain Pokemon eat other Pokemon. There's like a food chain. You could really, if you wanted to, you could create a chart of the Pokemon food chain. And Illuvium doesn't really have that yet, especially since they're not like roaming around in the world and things like that. And because even in Pokemon, you see two Pokemon, if you find them in the same area, there's a good chance that one of them is the lower part of the food chain of the other one and things like that. So they thought a lot of those things through with not just design, but the personality and things of all the creatures. And they've got a lot of that personality. They've got a lot of that design fleshed out. I believe Aaron's got all that worked out, but we haven't really seen it yet. And I feel like that's the last major piece of the puzzle for making these things feel about as collectible as you can make anything feel. It'll make it feel unique. It'll make it feel yours, and you'll better understand the world that it lives in. And I think that's going to be really invaluable.
Yeah, I'm excited where it's going. Do you agree? Like, for some reason, because you came in the space, you're aware of all these different projects out there, yet of all the different projects, Illuvium got your attention. Why has this one gotten so much of your attention for investment dollars, time spent, and to where that you decide to then make a channel that covers almost exclusively this project? What was it about this project?
So, okay, I had never been through a bear market before. That's where I'm going to preface this. I'd never been through a bear market before. I started investing in cryptos and things, and then we had that big dump. I think I started investing afterwards. That big dump in May or whatever, I think it was 2021, right? And everything came crashing down from 64K or whatever, and we're in a bear market. I'm like, shit, We're in a bear market. I didn't expect this. I took my fair share of heavy losses. I did okay, but I took my fair share. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep researching the tokens, but I want to find a token that I believe is bear market resistant. Is that possible? I don't know. But if it is, I'm going to find it. And then I came across Illuvium and I said, shit, did I just find it? I spent months and months researching. I'm like, yeah, I figured it out. I don't know if it's going to play out, and we'll have to see when the game launches. But I think it's one of the only bear market resistant tokens in the world, and I'm about to explain to you why. Right? It has this mechanism called revenue distribution. Every single time anyone spends money in a game, it gets taken to the vault, right? And then that vault gets turned into ILV. Well, it takes the Ethereum and it uses it to buy ILV off the market. Then it takes that ILV and it distributes it to stakers. Now, why this is unique is because players spending money on the game is not financial market related. Technically, you could argue it probably is correlated to some degree, but in history, in video games, we haven't really seen them correlated to financial markets. Even during the large global financial crisis and things like that, there were still people playing video games. Now, it was quite early days and video games weren't as advanced as they are now, but people were playing video games. People were still spending time on the cheaper forms of entertainment, right? So basically what this means is rain, hail, shine, whatever is happening in finance, in crypto, in everything in general, macroeconomically, people are still spending money on the game, which means that the token is still being bought in far different scales to what it could possibly be being sold at. And not only that, is if the token's lower, it benefits the stakers more because they get a higher percentage, they get a higher ratio back as ILV tokens. So as long as you have one person that refuses to sell, then people spending money to play the game will make the token go up even in a bear market. That's really all it takes. You have one person. Obviously, I expect far more than that. But I thought that was a really interesting premise. Whether or not it works is anyone's guess, and I'm definitely not telling you to invest based on this advice. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see if that functions or not. And there are lots of other projects now doing more of that what I call real yield type mechanics. And I'm mostly all in on Illuvium, if I'm being completely transparent with my portfolio. But there are lots of projects out there doing this sort of stuff, and I've investigated a few of them, but none of them are really based on gaming just yet. So I'm not as keen, let's put it that way, because I think gaming is one of the key aspects there.
Can we agree that blockchain gaming in the future won't even be called blockchain gaming? It'll just be called gaming, but with true ownership. Much as like we're using voice over internet protocol right now, yet we don't ever call it VoIP, right? We just call it video calling and stuff, right? So it's like people call them NFTs or they call them digital collectibles. In the future, it'll all just be gaming. It'll just be like you can own stuff. And so it'd be like, oh, I'm not going to play that game. You don't actually get to own it. You can't sell it. They won't think about the tech behind it. Right now, we're still using the term for the tech behind it, but that's where gaming is going. And that's highly interesting to me. And Illuvium has this beautiful period where they've got one of the most advanced games coming out. Did want to shout out the audience. Ricky Tan, first to jump in and make a comment. Oh, damn, perfect timing for me. Bernard shouts out, hola, Rainmakers. Ricky Tan says, let's go. Bernard says, we're still here. We aren't going anywhere soon. What's up, fam? Bring that strategy from EVE into Web3. Yes, I would love to see a space game version of EVE Online on Web3 where you could there's massive value in World of Warcraft and EVE. And some players are super wealthy in the game, and it's hard to translate that into real world wealth today. I do suspect in the future, there will be some games with so much money there that people will make six figures with positions in the game. That's where it's going.
That's definitely reasonable. I don't know what that's going to look like, whether or not they're going to hire a bunch of people and essentially scale what is a digital business, or if they're going to be able to make that sort of money or that sort of income from just playing themselves. Which I don't fully expect that to be the case, because their time, I would argue their time is less valuable than a lot of people's times. Now, if everyone's lives goes completely digital, then that's different in itself. But realistically, whenever you work a job and you earn an income, let's say you earn 6 figures, I would expect that you're doing a job that provides so much value to so many people and like add something to society and the world in general in such a way that you're earning 6 figures. And with gaming, there's not really a job like that that I can think of. Now, there are like you can become like a mafia boss or a mogul or whatever inside a game, and maybe that would be worth quite a bit if the game had intense features of raiding and defeating other players. Then skill would be a giant cap on how much money you could make. But if it's a mostly friendly game, I don't expect you to make that much.
It'll be mostly through like guilds and running a guild effectively. So essentially you're running kind of a business, though these people aren't paying them directly. And that's why I saw on EVE Online, right? You have some CEOs of corporations that are massive, and I suspect some of them actually monetize it on the black market and are literally making 6 figures right now. And that's with having to sell things at a big discount because it's black market. And so I talked to some people who alluded to that, though they wouldn't give me details because I went back into EVE during the last bear market to see where things were, and I played for about 6 months. So I didn't have enough trust for them to tell me that they were, though I suspect they were, and how much they were making on it. Anyway, it's cool. Scoriox, thank you for joining me today. How do people find you on both Twitter and YouTube?
So on Twitter, I'm just at King Scoriox. You can see me, the logo's there and everything. And on YouTube, I'm just Scoriox. So Scoriox. And the only other thing is I'm writing my monthly newsletter at the moment. I've been doing it for about 6 or 7 months. You don't need to pay to subscribe or anything. If you want to support me, then be my guest. I really appreciate it. But if you just want to subscribe for free, I pretty much put all my personal thoughts in there every month. Basically stuff that doesn't make it into videos, because you can only have so many videos you can create in a month, believe me.
Yeah, it's a lot of time to do that and a lot of thought put into it. Well, thank you for joining us. If you're interested in Illuvium at all, you have to subscribe to Scoriox. The way he looks at things, he was one of the first ones I subscribed to, and the one that I watch every single video of. There's some other smart people in the space. I'm a big fan of Najaf, I think.
Yep.
I've got actually one of his videos on. Najaf with E at the end, his videos as well. I like him. But you're my favorite. So thanks, Scoriox, for joining us.
No problem at all, man. See ya.
All right. So I wanted to bring on God's Entry. God's Entry joined us last Friday, and the market is showing some crazy things. And so why not have a technical analysis expert join us again for what's popping off and what might pop off? God's Entry, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Boy, this last week's been crazy, huh?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of excitement. Everybody's getting excited, thinking the bull market starts. I'm trying to be a little cautious, though.
Smart. Well, what are you seeing in the charts, and what charts are interesting? Have you been following the AI stuff? And some of these AI projects absolutely going nuts for what we've been used to. It's not nuts for a full bull market, but it's
I saw a few things in a couple of different discords. I haven't paid too much attention to it because I'm trading and whatnot. Because I basically trade ETH all the time. So.
Yeah. So what projects are you following, and what are you seeing in the charts on what you're following? Do you mind if I share your screen?
Sure, go ahead. My pleasure. All right. So I'm going to start with the traditional markets first, because they actually, they have a lot of weight in what happens in crypto. So I keep my eye on traditional markets. This is actually the S&P. Currently, we're actually breaking this descending trend, this white trend line that's been holding us down for almost a year. We're actually breaking above it currently. Actually almost making what they call golden cross with the 200 EMA, 200 moving average, and the 50. When the 50 crosses up through the 200, it actually creates what they call golden cross, and that's actually quite bullish. I'm just being cautious because I don't like the slope of the 200 coming down, and I don't want us to just come here and do a double top and roll over. So what I'm looking here is some sort of rejection, come back to the trend, and if this trend line holds, then I'll start to get a little bullish and possibly deploy some capital.
Now, are you concerned in like traditional markets, the number of zombie companies out there that have been propped up by being able to borrow at such low rates that they're actually just not really profitable, but because they've been able to borrow so cheap, they're still alive? That then as interest rates go higher after a little while and they can't borrow so cheap, then the house of cards comes down.
Right. The liquidity runs out and they go belly up.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you like, we won't see that in the very short term. Sometimes in the very short term, things still run, right? And it's like, oh, everything's good until
Right.
it's not.
Well, right now everything's kind of being propped up because everybody's deploying money back into the market because they took money out at the end of the year for tax purposes. So now they actually got to put money back into the market for another year. So that's kind of generally why we go up in January, usually. So this is S&P. I want to jump to one other concern why I'm trying to be cautious right now. I want to go to the dollar. This is DXY. So, all right. It has an inverse correlation. When it goes up, all markets generally go down. We're sitting on support right now, and we're creating bullish divergence on the daily.
Yeah, so it's probably going to take a run up, which will usually then mean money comes out of the other markets, right?
Yeah, at the very least, it's going to pause for a minute because we did have a pretty big run this month. I mean, Bitcoin's up, what, 40%, close to, or something like that. So we're definitely due for a pause. But it's a great time to, look at other projects. Like you said, I have a few over here. So I'm paying attention to the dollar to see what it does. If we lose this support here, then markets are going to go up. So if we lose like this 101 area, then markets will keep going up. But so I keep an eye on that. And then I'm going to go to what they call total 3 for the crypto markets. Now, this is everything excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum.
So essentially all your alts. Does it also include USDT and USDC?
I'm not sure. I believe so. I believe so.
Okay, because if it is everything excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, it would include those.
Correct. Yeah, I believe so. But we're in a descending channel, which is bullish. Okay. So as soon as this breaks out, say price breaks out this area right here, we get above this channel, alts will run. So I want to see some confirmation here that we come through and retest and off we go. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want to see us roll over again. So I'm looking for confirmation before I start deploying capital once again.
Yeah, because it's a little bit early to know. It hasn't really even broken yet. And so you're looking for it to break out above and then probably retest before it runs.
Correct.
Got it.
So then we'll go to Bitcoin real quick before we go to the other coins. All right. So here's the deal with Bitcoin. What we had was bullish divergence play out on a weekly on this descending wedge. And that's why we had this impulse up like we have. So what we also have is we're coming into contact with our first ever weekly depth cross with the EMAs, with the 200 and the 50 EMA. So this is a lot of resistance right here. The price generally likes to test these intersections. So I'm looking for some sort of correction at the very least from this point. And I want to see if we come down and make like, a lower high as well. So, yeah. So I'm looking to see this correction to see where it takes us.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of factors coming together that suggest at a minimum we're going to come back down first, even if it does continue to run, or just pause.
Yeah, pause is kind of what I'm looking for. Like, let the markets kind of reset because we did have a pretty good pump here.
Yeah.
And for Bitcoin, generally we have to stay above this yellow line on the weekly. It's a 21 EMA. As long as we stay above this in the past, we're generally bullish. So I want to see that we stay above the yellow line for more than a week or two. I want to see us hold this yellow line right here, and then push through. But my thoughts are telling me, here's this main line of resistance and support. If I just go right here, so roughly like anywhere between like 29, like 32K area. We stood above the support zone for almost 540 days, right? So it's going to take just about the same time it should to get back through this zone right here. So I'm looking for us to actually keep accumulating in this area for probably a few more months at the very least, because I don't see us going right through it on the first try. So
Yeah.
trying to be
Okay.
patient, you know.
Let's take a look at, you've got the ETH chart there. Do you mind if we look at that next?
ETH right now, we're coming into, we haven't made a higher high yet, really. And that's what I want to see. I want to see us break this high right here. And we're actually creating what they call bearish divergence. So we should actually come, what I'd like to see to get through here is come down, hold support. I wouldn't like to lose this 1440, 1425 area, and then continue to push back up. So I like a little pause and then reset, and then off we go. I don't want to see us start to lose the levels that we just regained.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I wonder, while we still have Scoriox in the green room, if you can pull up, let's take a look together at ILV. I know I didn't give you some advance notice. I'm pulling up that chart. Do you mind? Because I know Scoriox is also bullish on Illuvium, or at least has a bunch for the long term. I'm curious to get your opinion on what's going to...
What's the ticker again?
It's ILV.
Binance is probably the best exchange.
Yeah.
Let's zoom out here for a little bit.
Now, personally, I'm hoping it gets wrecked and comes down because I love this token and I like buying cheap. I don't know about anyone else, but I like to buy cheap.
All right.
Is it cheap now? Yes, it's cheap now. It's really
very
cheap now. But I like it even cheaper if possible. I almost just bought some this morning at the price, and I'm having a hard time not buying some even at this price because it is still cheap.
There's not much price history here, but kind of looks like we're starting to make a rounding bottom. So we don't want to lose this current level. This is on the weekly time frame, so we don't want to lose like this level. I just see it keep support on 38. You don't want really to see it go below there because then it can just keep bleeding out. So you'd like to see 38 hold at the very least, from my point of view.
I would hate to see 38 hold. I would love to see it not hold, because I think this one's my personal opinion. This isn't financial advice. I take risky bets. I think this one's a home run for me. And I haven't loaded up on it. I completely loaded up on the land. I haven't loaded up on the token. And I definitely should have started already when it hit below 40. I know in Scoriox and I were talking about this event in March, early March, a bunch of tokens unlocked. And we were looking at the numbers of tokens that are reward tokens that unlock. So this is staking reward tokens that get unlocked. So it's pure profit for people that some might sell.
Right.
So I had been thinking I was going to wait till then because they should bring down the price. But if the price takes a run beforehand, it'll bring down the price from whatever it's at. But if the price is already at $200 and it brings it down to 170, I missed some better entry points. So
I don't ever think it's worth waiting for things like that. I think that's a fool's game in the long run. You also need to consider that Illuvitas is hopefully coming out before that unlock as well, and that'll mean that they have their 4 projects out in some form. So yeah.
Well, I'm getting some good advice. I'm learning right now from you guys about Illuvium because I'm just trading it most of the time. I don't do much research on this point. But I will say, if we do get above this 21 EMA and this holds support, they'll probably stay above this. So this is what's holding us down at the moment. So I would say this range right here is a good accumulation range if I were to look at this, because it looks like it's starting to base out.
Right. And hopefully it'll trade in this range for a while, but we'll see. Sometimes they don't, right? Some gaming projects like Gala got off to a big start. And if Gala continues to pump, people will look at what else looks good. And people that don't know anything about Illuvium will be throwing money in just to be investing in the next, Gala or something, which is kind of how the space sometimes works.
Yeah, I hear a lot about Illuvium, and it was quite expensive in the bull run. So right now it's quite a discount.
Yeah, Illuvium got to like 1,800, and people were saying, "Should I buy it?" I'm like, "Hell no." They're still vesting their tokens too. Like, just wait, it'll come back down. And so now it's been in that range since below $80. It started getting somewhat attractive, and I've covered a lot. And I was like, below 60, it's a steal of a deal, and it hit to 40 and below. And that day, I should have picked up some, and I just didn't, hoping it would touch closer to 30. And yeah, I kicked myself because even at the current price, it's not a bad price, in my personal opinion. So
We're still in a bear market, so be quite frankly, in about a year, 2 years, everybody's going to be feeling kind of silly about waiting for bottom.
Yes, and so Scoriox is a big fan of Illuvium. He's on the council, so he's somewhat limited on what he can say about the price. So on the council, he gets a vote in the direction of where things go, which
Okay.
so he does also get good insights into the project itself, but then it makes for a tricky position, right? Like I usually don't ask CEOs to talk about the price of their token because that puts them in a weird position, right?
Yeah,
So I guess I'll have to ask you less about the price of the token because you do have some influence on the future of where the game goes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
We definitely get the community's input as much as we possibly can, but ultimately I'm one of 5 people that does vote on the direction of the game, being a part of the DAO like that. But no, I definitely think DCA is the best option in general. And I think Guy's entry is absolutely right. Everyone that's like, I'm waiting for a bottom, I'm waiting for another dump, they're going to be the ones that lose in the long run. That's just the matter of the fact, I think.
Everybody should
With
have
every token.
I think everybody should just have a proper time horizon, because all the euphoria from the bull market, people probably have unrealistic expectations. So hopefully now everything's cooled off. They realize, you know what, I need to have a plan for the next bull run rather than just jump in and hope it goes somewhere. You should learn how to take profits.
And I agree with buying zones, right? Trying to time the absolute exact bottom is really, really hard because sometimes there's a massive event that just brings everything down. But even when that event happens, you're like, maybe it'll get cheaper. So you kind of define where your green zones are and where you're okay with buying. And I agree with you that dollar cost averaging during the bear market, it's so hard to catch the exact bottom. And almost never hit that, but I'm happy with basically some green zones where it's good enough price that I'm going to pick some up.
And buying a red day for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thanks, Scoriox. Let's jump back into other things that you want to look at, God's entry.
No problem. All right. Like I said, I really only trade ETH. Ever so often, I'll trade some altcoin. I get some really good information from other discords. I hear chatter about other coins right now. I'll show you that I think have potential from a technical standpoint. I guess this is called GMX. It's a decentralized futures, like perpetual futures exchange. I hear a lot of people talking about it. It's relatively new, but it's trading very well right now. It's trading above what they call the yearly pivot, and that's generally bullish. So when I look at coins, I want to see where we are in terms to the yearly pivot. We're trading above it. We're trading above the 200, and we're trading above the 21 EMA. So I wouldn't say this is actually a buy, but you should definitely keep this one on your radar.
Yeah, some good things about this. I'm looking up some of the fundamentals behind it. Most of the market cap is out there. Most of the tokens are in circulation. It looks like, if I'm reading this right, is it on the Avalanche ecosystem or the Arbitrum ecosystem, or maybe both?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure 100% here. I hear a lot of chatter about it, and I haven't looked into it too much, but generally the information I get from these sources is usually pretty good.
I do think Avalanche is primed for a run, right? So it had a huge retracement. Everybody was like, oh, Avalanche is the best, and it went way up. I never buy after massive green candles. I just wait, especially massive ones like they have, but they've come down quite a bit in the Avalanche. And so that ecosystem might be ready to run again, because I listened to an interview with the CEO recently. I think it was Paul Barron Network. Okay. Anyway, I just impressed with the CEO, and I was like, this guy's really sharp. Okay. This ecosystem, I think, will do well. So GMX, I liked it, a lot of their stuff. I'm going to share my screen. Market cap is 455 million, which is a lot higher than most of the stuff I like to buy. I like the riskier stuff, but so much of their stuff is already in circulation. I like to see that. So you're not going to get dumped on by like the team or other tokens coming into circulation. And it's been out for quite a while, since 2021, and it's traded really strangely in this range.
Yes, it's
very different from most of crypto, right? That it
Yeah,
has
that's why
kind of this big drop and then this, you know.
that's why I pulled it out, because it's actually being a little bit, trading a lot differently than most of the other coins at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
I think
What else are you looking at? We mentioned about some AI coins, and I think, gosh,
which I
we've
knew a
all been
couple of
caught
them. I
off
will look
guard
them
by
up for you.
Chat GPT and the capabilities there. So literally, some of the AI stuff has 10x. When Wednesday, when I had on Paul from Definity, we looked at one of the audience members asked us to look at a coin, and it 10x'd over like the past few weeks, which is crazy to see in this kind of market.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
can't
very
remember the name of that coin. NTX is another one that we can look at there. Okay, you've got H-bar pulled up, which has had a nice run. Is this one on your radar?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. This other indicator I use, it's like a trend. It's called a trend setter. We haven't really traded above this for quite some time. Actually, since the whole bear market, we're trading above the trend setter at this moment and above the 200. So it's trading at around 7 cents. If we get above this 8 cents area, we had quite a big waterfall. So there's not much resistance all the way up to almost 18 cents. So if we actually get above 8 cents, we could run pretty hard. So that's what I'm looking for. I have an alert set for when we get above there. I might take a position.
Let's look at one more along these lines. Let's look over at Matic if we can, and then I want to look at some AI coins.
I also looked up. I have Mask up here as well. This is the last coin I was going to bring up. You hear a lot of chatter about this with the Web3 for social media coins.
No, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's some sort of Web3 coin for social media. If you look it up,
okay,
you hear a lot of chatter about this coin as well. And once again, we're trading above the 200. Not many coins are actually trading above the 200 right now.
Yeah, and if some stuff then runs, what's funny is a lot of money starts to come in the space again, and sometimes then other things run, which I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a mini pump after some correction.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fully ready, full on bear or bull market again, but like we saw in 2019, the market bottomed at 3,200 Bitcoin and went up to 14,000 before then coming down to 3,800 before being ready to run much, much higher.
Yeah, we could definitely have a nice rally in altcoin season for sure. But we just got to break the levels that I showed earlier. Yeah, I hear a lot of chatter about this coin and the narrative.
Interesting. No, Mass Network brings privacy and benefits from Web3 to social media like Facebook and Twitter with an open source browser extension. Really interesting. Log in with Mask ID and connect your wallet. Use familiar Web 2.0 sites enhanced with Web3 integrations. That is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Use the Mask extension to hide your content from prying eyes and allow only your target audience to see it. That's interesting. So it says encrypt messages for friends' eyes only. Well, that's helpful. So we learned Twitter is reading all your DMs that you send to people. And in a lot of cases, just handing those right over to authorities, which they say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then why do you care? There's a reason why the U.S. seceded from England, and they wanted privacy in your papers because England would use that to take anyone they didn't like and prosecute them, find a reason to prosecute them, even if there wasn't really one there. So there's plenty of reasons not to have authorities reading through all your things because you might say something benign that can be taken out of context and used to prosecute you. So yes, no,
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, so I believe in privacy in your papers, right? Which should include your emails. Now, if they have reason to suspect you robbed a bank and got you on video robbing a bank, do I have a problem with them being able to get a court to issue a subpoena and look at those? No, I don't.
That's a different story altogether.
It's a different story than them just casually perusing through all your messages to try to find somebody that they don't like, because they can then use that to politically target.
Yeah.
I want to take a look at, can we look at AGIX? Now, this is one of my favorite AI tokens, even though I don't have any. I have one of kind of a sister company to it. But look what it's done.
Holy moly. All right, I don't have much here. Let me turn on something. Yeah, there's not much information on it. It's fairly new, huh?
Well, kind of, right? So it's only showing to 2022. No, it should have. It probably only got on Binance then, but it's been around since longer.
Okay, let me just type in again and see what happens.
Let's see, because
Maybe Kucoin?
so they've been around since 2018. So if you look at Coin Market Cap, you'll find it. There we go. There's a better.
Yeah, this is Kucoin. All right. So they were on Kucoin first. Well, it's well above the 200. Let me see what's going on here for a second.
Yeah, this one I'm telling you, this comes from ChatGPT, waking people up to the advancements in artificial intelligence, and it's going crazy.
Yeah, it looks set up to actually make another little pop here, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I'm thinking, that this is just the first run of probably several.
Just looking to see where we can go. At the very least, it'd probably come up here and make another double top in this area, retest where it got sold off. We usually don't just sell off on the first shot. It comes up. If it's going to make a double top, it's going to do it again up here. But the way it's resetting, let me just go on a lower time frame. It's kind of like what Omi looked like that one year in 21.
You made a ton of money on that trade too.
Yeah. So what I would do at this point, really, to be quite honest, not financial advice, but you were to buy this coin, you wanted to take the run up. As soon as it loses this trend line, just get out for the time being, because we ran up pretty hard. So at some point, it has to come down and catch support somewhere, or make support. So this trend line right here is basically what's holding it up. If we lose this, I wouldn't feel too comfortable holding it.
Yeah, so if you bought some at this point, you would put a sell below that because it's breaking below that, and
if it's essentially rollover, maybe come all the way back down to 9 cents.
Yep. And there's always that risk it does it. And so what professional traders do is they're just balancing their risk versus reward. There's some potential amazing upside here, but also the potential it breaks through this and goes down. And so what they do is they position to take the upside run. And if it breaks the other way, have a stop loss or a sell order that will then sell it, at a slight loss rather than a big loss.
For an example here, I would just go like this. Take this up here. This would be my target. And I would put my stop like right here.
Yep.
Like for this, just to be conservative, whatever, like a 10% stop. I wouldn't risk losing more than that. Give you a nice risk to reward here. 3 to 1. That's lowest I like to go.
Now let's check out NTX. This is one I do have some of.
Noonet?
Yes.
Okay. Where? Price history here. NTX. And that's Nexo. What's right here? Too much price history. How old is this? It just shot up out of nowhere. Here.
It's not very old. It's been around since not as long as Singularity at all. I think a little over a year, just barely over a year.
Don't seem to find a chart with much price history on it.
Yeah, if you, and part of the reason is in the early days, a lot of projects aren't pushing to get on exchanges right away. So if you go to Coin Market Cap, they'll often be on Uniswap or PancakeSwap or something. But if you go to Coin Market Cap, you'll find the history goes all the way back to November 2021.
All right, here's PancakeSwap. It has a lot more price history. Okay.
There you go.
That was a little bit more helpful. All right, so we kind of just reached our all-time highs already. That's what this wick is right here. This was from back in May 22. So we just reached its all-time high again. I definitely think it'd be time to problem is we could go into price discovery. We clear this area.
Yep.
We go into price discovery at that point. Once again, I'll just keep a close eye on this one. I'll go on a lower time frame, but we're actually setting up to test the high again. What it's doing. This is definitely a risky one to get into at the moment, I would say. I would like to see a break above this 34, or what's this, the 3.5 cents, and hold support, then enter here. I wouldn't enter below here.
You would rather wait till it breaks through again, comes back and retests, hold
Yeah,
it at that, buy it at that point, put a stop loss down below, and then see if it runs up or it comes right back down.
Well, we're going to have new price discovery. What would you like to see if you're like a holder of this coin? You'd like to see it get above this like 33.5 cent area, hold support, build a base, and then keep going. You know, and that's what you'd like to see.
Yeah.
But right now, you know, see, we stopped. We had a lot of price action stop here because this was resistance. We broke the resistance. So even if we fell off like up 0.022, there's a lot of support right here.
Cool. I see you have OMI pulled up there as well. Why don't we take a look at that? And then I got to get to the giveaway for
No problem.
the members.
All right. OMI, once again, is still in this price range. Getting ready to make a golden. Oh, not there. We're just stuck in this range right here, to be quite honest. I'd like to see this trend line hold. If we lose this, we could come all the way back down to the bottom of the range. We got to hold this line up and get it through the top. So it has a battle ahead of it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes within this trend, right?
Yeah, definitely
So
like to
I'm
see
bullish on it long term. I feel like they have a better tech team, and their tech team is coming on board, and they're bringing on more people so that they can start hitting timelines much better. And we can see the evolution of the VV app and other things come together with what we've been being promised for a while.
Yeah, we
So I'm
definitely
excited
need
about that, but these tech rollouts still going to be a little bit in the future.
we definitely need a utility program.
Yes, the only
Exchange.
utility program will be a game changer for this, in my opinion, when that rolls out. But the answer soon is, I think a lot of people are just frustrated with that answer. Though on the backside, the tech side, I think see the right things coming together. So the word soon is said way less, which is important, right? So I wanted to jump to some comments on AGIX, this one particularly. AGIX now on Cardano, they couldn't accomplish what they were trying while on ETH. You can also stake IGX and keep your keys. Yes, Singularity Net partnered with Cardano and moved over quite a bit ago. And so all the Cardano conferences I've been to, Dr. Ben Gorsel, who is one of the founding members of Singularity Net, and one of the reasons why I'm a big believer in that company, has been at those Cardano events. Cool. God's Entry, thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to get to the giveaway that we do on our Friday live streams, thanks to Wanchain.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Wanchain has been good to us and through our strategic relationship. And so on Friday live streams, we give away Wanchain. Now, for the question, so I have to go by the first person that gives the answer that hits my screen, since when you put your answer in there, it'll usually hit your screen first, sometimes before other people's, but we have to go off the one that hits my screen first. As to the first person who gives the answer, if you are the winner, I need you to DM me on Telegram your MetaMask address so that I can send you the Wanchain that you win. And this week we'll be given an accumulation of 2 weeks worth of Wanchain. So the winner today gets 250 Wan. Wan gives us 500 to give away every month. Now, Wanchain tweeted in the past few hours that their Friday thread shines a light on what? So hint, hint, if you haven't subscribed to Wanchain already, what are you doing? Because that's where I draw most of my questions from. All right. While we're waiting for that answer to come in, it's exciting seeing some stuff come back into the market. Now, is this a full-blown bull market? I don't think so yet. even if the bear market, or we continue sideways, or maybe we continue a longer trend up, or maybe it goes up and comes back down lower, that you're seeing that this space can be exciting. It's refreshing to get something like this after months and months and months of just going down. And so it wears on you a little bit. It's fun to get a little bit of excitement like this. All right. Pete D says Juan Bridge. Yes. So essentially, yes. Let me read the tweet. I'll share it right here. With a highly anticipated upgrade just around the corner, this week's Friday thread shines a light on Juan Chain's core offering, the Juan Bridge. Now, one of the cool things that Juan Chain's tech does is a trustless bridging system. And often we don't want to think about these things, even within the crypto space, even as much as the technical stuff that we follow. Why would you use what's called a trustless bridge over a trusted bridge? Well, a trusted bridge, it sounds like it's even more trustworthy, a trusted bridge, but that's actually not what it means. A trusted bridge is a much higher concern because you have to trust that the people running it won't run away with the money. A trustless bridge sets up structures so that any one person cannot take more money than what they would lose by doing things wrong. Essentially, Bitcoin mining is handled in a trustless way so that any one miner would have to get 51% of all the miners to collude with them to do something. And so a trustless bridge is set up in a way, kind of the structures along the lines of, or incentives wise, along the lines of Bitcoin mining, in that one party cannot take more than they would have to lose out of it. And so as long as they get the coding right without any errors in the coding, trustless bridges are far superior as far as less likely to have a party run off with all the money. And Juan Chain has some of the best trustless bridge technology out there. That's why I love them myself. I hold Juan Chain and I'm excited about their future. And I really like the people behind it, and I like what they're doing. And they're creating more and more bridges across all the different third generation blockchains out there and second generation blockchains out there. I'm excited about where they're going. All right. So Pete D was our winner there. Great, Pete. I know I have your Telegram, so telegram me your address and we'll get you on that. Scoriox, back to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So one last thought before we wrap up. Of all the different things, you talked a little bit about why Illuvium initially got your attention, because you wanted something that could be bear market resistant. What has it so it still has your attention? After you've been following it for quite a while, the token price itself has decreased. What is it about the community or about the team that still you're like, this is the one I am the most hyped on?
It's the community is incredible, don't get me wrong, but one of the reasons I got in early and one of the big reasons I've stayed has definitely been the team. We can't go past the community, especially lately. They've really picked up, especially in the communication with the council and all the rest of it. We're pushing through so many big changes to governance, the token side of things and stuff as well. But the team is just amazing. Like, all three of the brothers working within the team have such different expertise. That's something I see a lot of, not just in the crypto space, but in many fields, is your head, your lead, your CEO and things like that are often just, they're a salesperson. Okay. I've worked with a lot of salespeople in my time. Salespeople are not devs. They don't actually understand what it takes to build something necessarily. And the best salespeople, I would say, are the ones that know how to take advice from others. But right now in the crypto markets, we see a lot of people that are great salespeople. They're great at selling and hyping up projects, but that's all they really know how to do. And unless they take advice from their devs, then they can often make some pretty big mistakes in that process. But that's why I like the Illuvium team. Not only is it three brothers, and obviously that's got its own advantages in terms of them living near each other, let's put it that way. That's got all its advantages, but those three have very different fields of expertise. And since they're all co-founders, they've all got to rely on each other to push the project forward. So you can't have the salesperson be like, okay, we have to do this and this because that's going to hype it the most. You have these other co-founders can be like, yeah, well, that's a really stupid idea. because you can't really make that, and artistically it's going to look like shit. You know what I mean? So they have so much strength in that, and not only that, they have the big advantage of their older brother being Kane, who founded Synthetic. So they have the crypto side of things as well, which is a big problem we see in the crypto space at the moment, where you have people coming in to build crypto projects, but they don't actually understand blockchain yet. They understand how to make a game, or they understand how Web 2 works and things like that, but they don't understand the blockchain at all. So they've got the art direction, the game design, they've got the hype sales side, and they've got the crypto side between the four brothers, which is kind of like four horsemen of the apocalypse in so many ways. I know it sounds kind of weird it sounds like this crazy force, but no, it's really, really interesting. I'm excited to see how that pans out, to be honest. I mean, I know me and my brother probably couldn't make a project together, not for a couple of years, but you never know.
So what I find sometimes when people hire family is it's nepotism based. However, with these guys, they are all like A players, right? Like A+ players. One of the things I liked about Illuvium was when I saw Kieran, he's come on the channel a couple times over the past 18 months. But when I watched him too on other things, I was like, this guy is a total A+ player. And then as I got to know more about his brothers, they're all A+ players. Like they all are like super driven, super competitive. They love to win and they know what it takes to win. And so even though they had some disadvantages in that, have they like built something like Blizzard before? No, they haven't. Like as far as leading Blizzard and everything, I think their competitiveness, their ability to learn, the interaction between the brothers is a very, very healthy competitive interaction, which one is willing to tell the other one, no, your idea is shit, which is really important in a company, right? And so I think it's the right team to make Illuvium something that maybe could rival Blizzard. Now, when I say this, like as an investor, like some of it's just risk, right? So I try to look for good teams that have the right thing, good narratives that have the right, and sometimes those come together. Like I invested in Axie Infinity, which I was actually concerned about the team in the early days. I saw an AMA with the team and it was like four people in a room. And I was like, these guys don't have the strength to take this big. And later they partnered with some other people that did, and that really helped. But I almost sold after watching that AMA and interview because the team makes a difference and who runs the team. So I agree with you on being bullish on Illuvium because of the team. Now, do we know what's going to happen? No, it's risk versus reward. What I like is it's early days. A lot of the token has vested. That's brought the price down. We've been in a bear market too. I like to buy cheap. And then I like to hold till some of that vision comes together. And so I think we're in such a good place for that.
Also, with so many scams in the crypto space, it's easy. You need to start to look past the teams that you think could rug you or could scam you. And that's not necessarily what I mean. I mean, the weaker teams. And I think Illuvium, probably has the largest team, like studio, out of the entire crypto space, like besides like maybe Ethereum. I don't know anyone else that has a studio with 200 strong. And when your studio's that big, sure, they could still rug you if you really think about it. But it shows dedication to the project. It shows dedication to building what they're building. And I think that that's really important. I also have a bias to trust Australians more. I don't know why. There's a very particular culture over here. We've had cricketers that cheated, and like the entire populace just turned against them and stuff. Like, so I don't know. I've always had a bias to trust Australians more, but there are lots of great teams out there. But yeah, their size definitely gives them an edge. There's so many Web3 games with bigger scopes and smaller teams, and that's really, really hard to watch. But yeah.
Oh, well, I would be concerned if they had launched the Overworld and Zero, and I felt like they had overpromised and underdelivered. I felt like even though they made some big promises, I felt like they overdelivered on it. And that's what you want to see from teams, right? Oftentimes we get, because technology takes a while, and they're like, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? But when they hit some milestones and they over deliver on them, that's what I love seeing, that it exceeds your expectations, not that wasn't as cool as I hoped it would be. So
yeah, I think it's so interesting. Like the Crimson Wastes, people keep saying it looks boring and all the rest of it. I would argue that was always going to be the most boring region that they create. So if something that great and that amazing is just a little bit boring, then that makes me more excited for what we're going to see in the future.
And we are just in an alpha. It might be that well, what's interesting is in the last 2 years, every game that's launched is like seriously only an alpha at best, not even at beta. The amount of bugs that they've had are ridiculous. And so I guess that helped my expectation be exceeded. That I think the game has crashed on me once or twice. Illuvium Zero's crashed on me or had some things happen weird, like 3 or 4 times in the past couple weeks, which isn't bad and far less than I expect actually in an alpha or even a beta stage. So a lot of their stuff in beta, right? They're like, oh, there could be more there. Oh, it's a little bit repetitive. And it is a little bit repetitive because they've only unlocked one region, right? So it's to test the gameplay, test how things work. And I feel like they're getting a solid idea that those mechanisms are working. And so then they're going to expand 2 more areas. Do you know timelines? I think Illuvium Zero runs into it, does its beta, February 23rd, where you can actually start playing and actually get to keep the blueprints that you get during that round.
Yeah, pretty much. So it might be the 23rd or the 21st. I think you might be right. But Illuvium Zero does the alpha reset. And at the end of that period, which will be just before the open beta, let's say 4 weeks or so, you'll be able to mint any blueprints you collected during that play. And the only reason they split it, they didn't plan on having that split and that initial reset. The only reason they did that is because they knew that they hadn't gotten rid of all the bugs yet. So that just shows you so much foresight that the team has and self-awareness of what is and isn't ready. Like even Overworld and the Illuvium Arena, they both when they first came out, they had pretty much no bugs. Maybe there's a crash here and there, but they're pretty much fully functional. As for the Overworld, it's also worth considering that there are a bunch of features that aren't in there yet. One in particular that I think will enhance the gameplay quite a bit is actually leveling up. In the game, you'll actually be able to level up your alluvials, which is going to make you feel way more attached and give it a much bigger sense of progression when you're playing. And I'm not sure how confirmed this is or what the level caps and things are, but it's my understanding that you'll actually need to get your alluvial to X level before it can evolve, before you can combine them. So there's going to be so much more progression in the game just from that alone. And then you've got the randomized stats and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of these systems that just aren't in the overworld yet because they're not testing that yet. They've got to test things one at a time, right? And that's just the reality.
And they can bring them in progression. I feel like if they release the other 3 areas and they figured out exactly the pricing mechanisms they were going to use for fuel, I feel like Illuvium could be good enough to release and then just progress it, right? So EVE Online isn't the game it was back in 2003, yet it's been live since like 2001. And so it's had all these progressions and layers of evolution and new capabilities that it kept. And that's the cool thing about a world like this is it's not like back in the days they released Halo and you bought Halo. And then at best they did an expansion set for it. It's a living, breathing game that they can patch and update and increase the capabilities over time.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to launch with 3 regions. And from our understanding, those 3 regions, 3 regions and Sanctum Mesa, which is like the hub, it's my understanding those 3 regions are basically done. Crimson Waste, we know, is pretty much finished. They're adding some final touches and things. Brightland Steps, we're getting a lot more. Abyssal Basin, we've been getting a lot more leaks from lately, and it looks really cool. And I think it's really close. And then Brightland Steps, they've been polishing or finished, like doing all the details and things for. We've seen most of that for the recent times. But the other thing is they actually announced that they finished their blockout stage for the 7th region. So they've done it for all the regions now. All they're doing is set dressing. And I think that's really interesting. And I love the reuse of their assets. In Illuvium Zero, the plant assets are all high resolution textures and everything because they're pulled directly from the overworld. And I like that amount of overlap. It would have felt weird if they didn't feel like they were from the same world. But by doing this and by making a game so custom, then it just feels so nice to be able to play these separate games and feel like you're a part of the same universe. And I think Illuvium, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal in the short term, but Illuvium is going to be the first one to make a proper interoperable ecosystem. I think Blizzard is the only game that has done several genres in the same universe. The only other thing that has done it in more recent times is probably Riot Games with League of Legends and Legends of Runeterra and all them. But Blizzard was really the only one to do it, and now Illuvium is the only one that's trying it with blockchain. So they could really change up gaming forever if they can pull it off, because no one else is stepping into that ring yet. Everyone's trying to do this interoperability between projects, and in my opinion, that's not going to work.
I fully agree. Another project that's going that way is Litcraft, which, obviously I'm biased towards. I'm an advisor to them on the Litcraft side. Their blockchain can do like 4 million or 8 million transactions per second. I'm forgetting. And they've been able to do that for 3 or 4 years. It took them about 3 years to develop the integration, what programming language would work with their blockchain. And they use RESTful API, so you can access it just with API calls. So it's a language almost every programmer speaks. And so they're geared directly for bringing Web 2 games, or even just current games out there, top games. They can onboard them to the blockchain in a matter of 6 months or less. And so that's what they're gunning for. And we'll see how that comes together. But they have their own game they developed, Litcraft Nesperience. And then they're going to release some other games. But the crafting for the other games, like say you want to make weapons or something, you'll probably craft it in Nesperience for their greater world. So they're going that way too, which is the way to go, right? In Illuvium, you could say, because Illuvium had, I guess they've been building Nesperience for like 4 years, but it was kind of passive development as they were testing their blockchain. So it's been in development for a long time, but they don't have a 200-person team running forward, and it's a different gameplay style. It's more like a mobile app type game, kind of like Illuvium Zero is. And then they don't have the first person shooter or the overworld type game yet, but they'll make some interactions there. Illuvium's ahead of just about everyone on that, in the fact that in order to really, you can just play one game, but if you want to, you can play both sides of it too. So that if you buy some land, you can produce your own fuel. Now, question for the free to play players, they'll be able to get a free piece of land, right? Can they produce any fuel from that land?
Well, they can play the game like you would play the game, but they can't sell that fuel to the open market or anything. So no, they cannot convert it into a crypto token, NFT, anything.
For themselves, though? Can they produce it? And I wouldn't be against them being able to produce it for themselves. I like it when games give enough functionality to free players, because when I first played Dota 2, first I was like, that's ridiculous that you're paying $20 for the skins that don't even. So what was I doing a year or a year and a half? It took me a good year and a half before I decided I liked the game enough I was going to spend money on it. And now I probably spent over $2,000 in Dota 2 over the past like 8 years that I played it. So, funny how I was totally against it. And now I spent $2,000 on a stupid video game for skins, right? But yet, is there enough that the player, because they'll be able to travel to tier 0 without any money, without spending any money. They'll be able to get some land and play it. I wouldn't even be against them being able to provide some of their own fuel to be able to travel to tier 1, or if they really, really saved up to even a higher tier. Do you know if that's in the plan at all?
This was a pretty big discussion in the council town hall the other day, which is on the Illuvium Plus channel if anyone wants to check it out. But yeah, there are a few people in the community that think T0 land doesn't have enough onboarding power into Illuvium, which is kind of the important factor there, where you want free-to-play players on the land to be like, oh, this game's pretty cool, maybe I'll play Illuvium as well. And currently, it feels like the end goals aren't really there yet. I expect that to change as the gameplay is enhanced and the game improves on its own outside of its crypto side of things. But currently, there isn't really any big advantage to playing on the T0. You can't get fuel or anything like that. But Kieran has actually teased in the Couch Town Hall the other day that him and Johnny, or I think Aaron and Johnny, have come up with a solution to this. Now, he didn't tell us what it was, and I can only speculate, but he talked about it in a way that currently land is limited to 100,000 people effectively, but he wants the ability to enable millions, or at least 1 million people, into the land in some meaningful way to be a part of this ecosystem. Because you want your world to support millions of people, and you want that all to fit in the law. But he
Right.
made it very, very clear that the reason they haven't revealed or they haven't really promised anything like this is because they're making sure that it doesn't impact current landholders. That's very, very important to them. So that's kind of what they're working on. And he said he's going to reveal it, or Aaron and Johnny are going to reveal it soon. So we'll see what they've come up with.
I would love to talk to them about it, and I don't mind them bringing. So it's like I had a brother-in-law that sold a company, and he sold his company for some money and only retained 12%. And I was like, really, why'd you sell it? Because you got 100% versus the 12%. He's like, well, that 12% I have is going to be worth 3 times more than I ever could have made the full 100%. So, and I'm a big believer in that, right? As a big landowner, because I own a bunch of pieces. I know there's people out there with more, but I went pretty heavy on the land. I wouldn't mind them being able and give them some value there, even if it's they could produce some fuel on the blockchain, but maybe it's just like 1/8 or 1/10 of what they could do on their own, or maybe even less than that, 1/20th, so they can get a taste. And they're like, the downside is if you allow something like that, is then you would have 2,000 bots create accounts, right? One person creates 2,000 accounts and has bots manage them. So maybe that breaks it, but I like giving people a taste for free so that they can see what the experience is like, so they want more. I'm going to wrap up for all the audience members. You mind keeping on just after we can talk about some of this stuff? I'm at 1 hour and 20 minutes, and YouTube punishes me after about an hour. Cool. I've got a rap for all you rainmakers. Know what this rap is about. Just reinforcing the principles that I share. I wrote the words. Charlie out in the UK performed it. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road could soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.